And we're back for another episode of Lowry After Hours. I'm Man out in Brooklyn, and tonight we're joined by Jeremy Taché, aka the other JT, aka JerBear, not JerBear, and aka the man who stands up to Dan a lot, which I love. And we're going to talk a little World Baseball Classic as well as preview the 2023 season. So, how you doing, Jeremy?
Is that the reputation I'm getting as someone who stands up to Dan? Because if that's the case, it wasn't on purpose, Dan. I'm sorry.
Dan, no, we talked about this, I think, in the chat. I like how you go after Dan. I mean, not always about the Heat being able to shoot, but
mostly
I like
about
that.
the Heat being able to shoot, which I'm wrong about. So
that's okay.
Maybe I should.
No, I think it's good, and Dan seems to respect, that you're willing to take a stance, have an opinion, and have evidence on why you feel that way. Versus sometimes where he just gets, look it up from Stu, and it's like, no.
Bunch of yes men around there, JerBear. You just gotta switch it up every now and then.
I appreciate that.
You got to get your lane in there, so I think it's good.
Yeah, well, it's awesome to be with you guys. I always love coming on here. I feel like, and it might not be the case anymore, but for a while I was one of the, what would it be? Just like the most appearances, like the I deserve like one of those. It's like one of those robes, the SNL Five Timers Club.
Yeah,
I
you need a gold hat.
Yeah, something, something that signifies. I'm pretty sure this is probably around 5. So
no, by my beep count, this is your 17th appearance on Lower After Hours.
Because the runner-up, Mr. Connor Onion from ESPN and the Big Ten Network, is it Big 10 or Big 12? I never know. There's
Big 10.
Isn't there 2 Big Tens? I don't know.
Yeah, there is.
No. Yeah, we have 2 Big Tens.
But the Big 10 has 12 teams anyway, so it's below.
Yeah, true. Good point. But Connor Onion, we were telling him, he's racing right on up there, and then the beep count put you at 17. So
I'll take it.
He's at 3, but he'll come on after the after the Final Four and everything. So
we'll talk to Lewin Sales to get you a gold hat of some kind. Huh?
Yeah, I'm into it. I'll rep it on the show.
There we go.
So again, thanks for joining us. Like I said, we wanted to talk a little World Baseball Classic, give you a couple minutes to sort of talk about what you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like, and the controversy out there where Americans hate it and everybody else loves it. It's kind of
it really is so silly, right? Like, it is the most incredible event. I was so I was moved by it, to be honest. Like, I know that sounds corny, but it was so special to see so many people with so much pride for their individual countries. And like, there was this really incredible camaraderie that existed amongst everyone where, like, I was there for, and look at me, Louis. I was there for Nicaragua and Venezuela to do a piece for Bally. And it was basically just a piece on like how fun this is and how excited everyone is. And it was so cool because we stopped a couple of folks to talk to them who they were there rooting, like they were Dominican. They were there for that game later in the day, but they were going earlier, and their reasoning was, we don't even care who wins. We just want to make sure everybody has fun. Like, it was literally like this camaraderie amongst these Latin American countries of, the Nicaraguan fans were like, we're not going to win. We know it. But that's okay, because this is the coolest stage. This is the coolest thing that we get to see all of these incredible athletes. And to have that sort of atmosphere and then to watch the games, like, I mean, it really was like every single game was sensational. Even the worst games were still highly competitive. I was there for again, DR Puerto Rico, but with Billy and with Roy. I sat there with Roy for that one. I don't know if Billy was there for that one, but we were there for the title game again. Look at me, Louis, for the 3rd time. So the atmosphere and seeing people care so deeply when, I've been to countless games at Lone Depot Park where there have been 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people who care deeply, by the way. If you're one of those people, you care deeply. Like the Marlins fans that are around consistently are like really passionate fans. It's just a smaller number in terms of consistently attending games. But when you see that stadium full, when you see it at full capacity and people with instruments and doing chants of, singing songs in between innings while plays happening. It was emotional, like it was really special, and I think it sets the stage for a major league season really well. I like that they have it before the season. I know the controversy that exists. I understand Mets fans are upset. But to me, and I think it's like an important point in all of this is like the World Baseball Classic is only good for Major League Baseball. Like there's no bad for Major League Baseball in the World Baseball Classic happening, even if stars get hurt or what have you. It's a Major League Baseball run event.
Yeah.
Your star power is increasing tenfold. Randy Arozarena became a star on the internet for a couple of days in a way that he has never in his entire big league career. And he's played nonstop in meaningful games. He's a guy whose career started with like this incredible postseason, but he kind of became a household name in a way that he wasn't before, strictly because he made a really cool catch in the World Baseball Classic, and it had people's attention. And now maybe that guy has some more fans. Maybe that guy has some more followers on social media. It seems really really simple, but when you're trying to create stars in your game, having a tournament like this where people care so deeply, it was really cool. Like it's a special event.
Well, especially because baseball has become so local. Anything you do to can make a national or international star is only going to help grow the game.
100%. 100%. When you look at it, looking earlier, there was an article, I think, from ESPN about how much money Major League Baseball players are making this year, and it talked about the endorsements of different players. Shohei Ohtani's making something like $40 million in endorsements this year. The next highest player, I think, was Aaron Judge with $4.5 million.
Right.
And that's Shohei. It's probably all international money, right?
Oh, for sure.
But the more that you make your stars part of an international event like that, right? Like there are people in Japan who watched players on the U.S. team for the first time in that event because they've potentially only paid attention to Japanese baseball before.
Right.
And now saw some players on the U.S. team and now care more about Major League Baseball maybe than they did before.
It also extends it because the Japanese fan base will also tune in when a Japanese player is on a major league team.
Yep.
So in Los Angeles, when we've had the Japanese Pride Nights, it is incredible the amount of people that show up. And we might not even have at that time a Japanese player on the roster, but the fact that we've had Nomo and Kenta Maeda and all these other great athletes for the organization, they continue to show up.
No, and that's part of it, right? Like, so with the Marlins, I know they do, and it's the best night every single month when they do this. They do their Heritage Nights, where it'll be Dominican night or Colombia night or Puerto Rican night at the ballpark. And those Heritage Nights are the best nights of the season because they bring in the Pachanga band and there's a little bit more flair to what's going on. And to me, like I don't like saying things on here anymore because I feel look at me Louie again. But like I said it, I asked David on the show last week where I was basically saying the Marlins need to apply for like whatever waiver it takes to get instruments into the stadium because that type of flair and that type of like international feeling is what makes the game so special. And so, yeah, we constantly talk about teams getting guys from their local area. It's not about that. Like you just said, like you can have an international reach and this tournament only creates that even more. Like you want to watch all of these players. This was great baseball, which is crazy because the season hasn't started.
Yeah.
Great ball. It was fun, and I'm really grateful to have been able to witness some of it. But more than anything, it's like I'm glad baseball really seems to be going in the right direction. Like I'm more energized for this year than I've been in a really long time.
Jeremy, in your opinion, what do you think is more valuable? That letter that fell off the Great Britain player from his jersey or the home run ball that Randy Arozarena robbed?
Oh man, that's so good. I'll say a Rosarena only because it's like a positive thing, but God, the A falling off the jersey was so good, and it's like a scarlet letter, and I just think the symbolism behind that was really wonderful.
It reflects poorly on King Charles. That would have never happened under
clearly.
Queen Elizabeth.
Clearly, yeah. You know what? You're so right.
That's what happens when you get
shit
your
up,
uniforms
Charles.
on Wish.
Come on, Charlie.
Come on, Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck. What's
King
up,
Chuck.
man?
King Chuck.
King Chuck.
Mound around a
So-
rebound.
Sir Charles.
Oh!
Wow. Wow. So, Jeremy, I've got a question for you. Obviously, the World Baseball Classic was a huge success in 2023. In 2016, attendance throughout all Major League Baseball was 73,159,000. World Baseball Classic was in 2017. Attendance actually dropped to 72 million in 2017. I guess this question is more: is this going to be like the World Cup in, the United States eyes, where we only focus on soccer for those 2 or 3 weeks out of the World Cup time, and then don't watch soccer? Is that going to be kind of the cadence here when it comes to baseball? We had a great World Baseball Classic, but are we going to see a drop off in that attendance?
I hope not. I think that it just depends on the way that baseball capitalizes on it. It seems like this is really good. It's good timing with the rule changes. And like, it's been cool because I've sort of organically been seeing not just people talking about it, but like people sharing the ads that baseball has created about their rule changes with like Bryan Cranston and like all these other actors and stuff. And I feel like baseball actually, like, they're doing a pretty good job here of trying to make people understand, like, hey, we are trying to make the game more entertaining for you. We're making it quicker. We're making there's going to be more action. Like, we're doing the thing that you've been asking. And so please, please watch our sport.
Right.
And that's essentially what's been happening. But when you are coming off of the World Baseball Classic like this, like it, I mean, I have like actual just friends who I talk to who love sports who just aren't big baseball fans traditionally, who fell in love with the World Baseball Classic in watching it and are like, is it going to be anything like that in the regular season? And my answer is, look, no, it's not, but they're shaving a half hour of the dead time off of the game. So if you're looking for like, is baseball going to be more fun for me? I can give you a reason why it will be. And like Mike Schur said it really, really well, where it's like watching these games with the 20-second pitch clock, it's training your brain to expect action every 20 seconds. Dude, that's so different. That's so different than what baseball has been.
Patino.
Actually, baseball has been like, you could look down at your phone and then the inning is over. Like, because you can get sucked in and you don't know when the next pitch is going to happen. And a guy throws over to first and then he spits and then another guy steps out. And like, all that stuff is still going to happen in sort of the romanticized way, but not in the actual annoying way. Like, guys are still doing the very baseball player things, but like being around a couple of spring training games, like the pace is crazy. There was a game, I went to a game the other day, it was 2 hours and 11 minutes. And it was a really good game with like, it was 3-2, but there were a bunch of base runners and stolen bases and like, it was great. And the idea that we might be able to get games, and it's not going to go like that. That's spring training. It is a little bit different. But if you're getting a great game that's 6-5 with, 17 total base runners and 6 stolen bases, and it's only 2 hours and 38 minutes or whatever, like, it's a completely different watch to me. And I'm really excited for it. So I'm hoping that baseball could do a good job here and just also get lucky that like there's a bunch of really good games on like Sunday Night Baseball. Like there's a little bit of luck that's involved, right? That when everybody is watching at the beginning of the year, that you get a few really good games, because if you get 9-2 where it's like A-Rod talking about whatever bullshit A-Rod wants to talk about, like no one wants
He wants to talk
that.
about himself.
Yeah, exactly. So nobody wants that.
What's wrong
What
with
they
that?
want is
The thing about it,
a
Michael,
good
is
baseball
that
game. Oh, God. So yeah,
Lou Pinella always used to tell me, "Sweet
Oh.
Lou."
man, there's nobody in the world with more "Look at me, Louie" than Alex Rodriguez.
Have him talk about the Timberwolves.
I don't know.
For real.
No, let's not.
I mean,
I'd rather hear
okay,
Mike
so-
Schur talk about the Heat free throws. than-
Speaking of Mike Schur, have you been able to ask, has Mike Schur named his character Jeremy Bearimy after you yet?
Oh man, what is unknown to Mike Schur is how obsessed with Mike Schur I am. And it's kind of weird and embarrassing because so my cat's name is Mose, which some people know, and that's like straight up. Because,
He knows too. Jessica told him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, right. No, I know.
Before you went on your rant.
Yeah, but it was also like I don't think that he really got who it was that was being spoken about because he didn't know everybody who was in there. So I'm not sure he knows, but it was my cat's name is Mose. I read his book. I have a folder in my photos on my phone that's just important media, Mike Schur, and it's all just like screen caps from shows he's showrun. So it's all like The Office, Brooklyn Nine, because I have to divide these things up. So many reaction GIFs and memes from when that was cool on the internet. And I have that. I have a Mike Schur one, I have a John Mulaney one, and I have a Schitt's Creek one for everyone if we really want to deep dive into the brain of Jeremy.
always.
So I'm a big fan. Like I'm a pretty big fan, and we haven't actually had any sort of like one-on-one interactions as of yet. So at some point, I'll hopefully be able to tell him that I'm like a weird, creepy stalker fan, and that also I hope Jeremy Bearimy was indeed named after me. I have a mug for a birthday. I think someone got me a Jeremy Bearimy mug. Like again, it's weird. I know it. Kinda
yes,
strange.
it is.
Mike Schur, Miami mic'd up collision course.
Miami mic'd shirt up.
Awesome.
You're all weak.
Absolutely. Keep it going.
You're getting better at those when you're closing like the podcast episodes with your puns. It's the progression is there. It's like, oh, if we got another hour, the kid would get it.
Thanks. Today, JT Real Fruto made me real happy today. I was really proud of that one. That one actually, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. That one came like 8 seconds late, and there was a couple of things that happened, but I wasn't sure that we had closed the hour or not yet, and so I said it, and because I control the edit, I just put
Left
that
it
one
in.
together. I was like, I'm gonna leave that one in there.
Still got the strong in you.
That's the
Absolutely.
executive
That's a
producer
little-
in
There we
training.
go.
Yeah.
Little A-Rod
Just
and
a
all
little
of us,
secret right there.
So speaking of the pitch clock, how much have you benefited from like, having sleep now? You get home earlier, right? You're finding all this time for probably extra activities. You're saving like 2 hours. I'm assuming here, right? Like, does it allow you for time to catch up on Heat basketball? Like, what are we doing?
I wish that I could say I had any time to sleep ever. I don't. It's fine. But no, I think that that's the thing I'm most excited for, because legit saving a half hour on 162 games is going to make my entire year different. Like I know it sounds nuts, but it's like that's actually a pretty big impact, and I think it's really good for all of us who work in the game. To like, oh, because of these rule changes, now we all just get to work a little less and hopefully for everybody get paid the same. So I'm real excited about it. Nothing's really
Hashtag
changed
new
for me.
JerBear, new me.
Yeah. I just think I'm really excited for the idea that like the Marlins games start at 6:40 a lot of the time. So you're going to have a 6:40 game that might just legit end by 9 o'clock. Like, oh my God.
The reason why I
Just sounds
asked,
lovely.
the reason why I asked this is because like they've moved up NBA games out here on the West Coast from 7:30 just to 7 o'clock. And Jeanette and I went to see Pau Gasol's retirement jersey a few weeks ago, and I think I
Look
said
at
that
me,
right.
Louis.
Yeah, and I noticed I was like, man, I'm home before 10:30, and it used to feel like sometimes I was getting home
Feels
like closer
good.
to midnight, and I was just like,
Mhm.
ugh,
It's nice. It's nice. Well, and that's, I mean, that was like, I know a lot of baseball teams have done the same thing, but like the Marlins' entire strategy was like, hey, we want to market toward families. So they moved their Saturday night games up from 7:10 to 6:10, and then they moved all their 7:10 weekday games to 6:40, and just that half hour is like a pretty big difference. And so now that they've now cut another half hour off the game, where it used to be, hey, a 7:10 game, you weren't getting out of there until like 10:15, 10:20, 10:30. Now it's a 6:40 game, and you might be done by 9:15. Like it's really a different thing, I think, for the consumer, and especially like it makes a huge difference, I think, and like it's not probably going to reflect much in the attendance numbers unless they're good, but like I am thinking specifically with the Marlins, like it makes a difference for people when you're driving down to Little Havana, that is like a really tough area to get around just in terms of traffic. Like the idea that you might be out by 9:15 instead of 10 o'clock, it does make a difference in terms of whether or not, if you're somebody from Broward, if you'd want to go down, because you can get home a whole hour earlier potentially. So I don't know. Some of those things do make a difference.
Yeah, yeah, and they have to, because it's just like you're gonna get that extra sleep. Honestly, for me, I wouldn't get that extra sleep. It's just the possibility, like the potential to have the extra sleep.
1,000%. I'm
real
not an
nice.
actual extra sleep person. I'm like oh, I'm done working by midnight. I'll just stay up till 2 relaxing.
Yeah, you need some JerBear time.
There is no JerBear time, but that's okay. It's all right. It's all filled with work, and that's okay because I love it.
I had one last question in here. Did you go to that food event with Billy?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. I not. Look at me, Louis. I was invited. I couldn't make it. I had other obligations work wise, unfortunately.
Was it a more look at me, Louis event that topped this food event? Is that what you're trying to like hide from
No,
us?
no.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
nothing like that. I
I'll back
just
off.
legitimately had to work, but no. It's just that I'm embarrassed that I had to say I was invited to something because, sometimes you get the invite. Sometimes you're a hashtag influencer like Billy Gill.
I think that what happened was Jeremy got the ticket, couldn't go, and he passed it on to Billy. That's the sense I'm getting right there, that Billy wouldn't have been able to go unless you gave him that
Now,
ticket.
now we're starting to pick up what I'm putting down.
Mm-hmm.
Let me make it abundantly clear that's not the case.
Listen, if Miller Lite needs you, to rep an event on behalf of the company,
Yep.
you're the young new face. You're the voice in the face of the Heat,
Yeah, you get
as
it.
well as Miller Lite. You can kind of combine that a little bit. Kind of cross brand. We have something there in the work. We have an ideas person here.
Yeah, I
Jeanette's
think
here, but,
Miller
she
Lite's
knows more about this than I
probably
do. But yeah.
Miller Lite is probably so excited about how well I rep their company on those ad reads.
Mhm. I mean,
JerBear.
I heard it like 5 times today. So yeah, I could only
Man,
assume.
that's brutal.
So, Jer, I want to stick with the sort of rule changes that have happened at MLB. I think it's great that they've made some of these changes. Do you think they're going to continue to be progressive, or like do you think they'll be able to tweak some stuff? Because there's a couple things I look at some of the stuff that I think like this is gonna eventually end poorly, like the pitch clock. Sometimes the batter just needs to step out and talk to the third base coach for 20 seconds, but there's no like timeouts on the offense, similar to how you have like hockey or in basketball. What do you think? You think MLB is going to be able to continue to be adaptive, or are they throwing this out there and like hopefully this solves all our ills and move forward?
I think I'm really impressed with what they've done so far. And I know they did have some sort of self-assessment from how it's gone in spring. And their decision was essentially, we're going to leave everything as it's been, because it has been really entertaining. There have been some flaws, but there's going to be flaws with any rule. The rules as presently constituted, people took advantage of. It's just that we were used to them.
Right.
And so I think there's going to be an adjustment period. My bet would be that 5 years from now, we won't think about these rules as anything other than just part of the game. And I would bet that maybe there will be some adjustments this year, But there's a chance that the way that they decide to go about it is, hey, look, these are the rules, and we're going to run through this season with them. And we'll be willing to assess going into next year as well that, hey, here are the ways we can tweak it to make it better. I think that MLB realizes that this is an important moment for them. I do think that they understand that they're now in the phase of having to try to capture a new audience. And as they're doing it, these rules matter. Like the pace of the game matters, the competitive spirit of the game matters. And as they're, creating this sort of new version of the game, but it's like it's still the same game. Not that much has changed. If anything, it just feels, in a lot of ways, watching it feels more like the game I grew up watching. Like there's just more of a pace to the game, more guys with singles up the middle. It's awesome. And there's more stolen bases. And so I think, yes, they will adjust. Like I kind of, God, though I don't want to do it because I don't like Rob Manfred. But man, I might have to be like, hey, Rob, good job. And that sucks. Because what? That guy fixed baseball? That sucks. I don't want that. I don't want to have to give him any credit. And obviously not just him, but man, this is it seems like there's a chance this is really a good thing for baseball. And I'm super excited about it.
Good job, Rob.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know. I feel like Manfred's down, or Manfred as I call him, is down, but some of the owners still seem sort of against things that are growing the game, and they're sort of standing in the way. Even as simple, going back to what we talked about earlier, with World Baseball Classic, people getting injured. Well, Reese Hopkins for the Phillies got injured in a spring training game. You're going to get rid of spring training?
Absolutely, right.
There's certain things you have to just get your head around.
Look, owners, understandably, man, it's their investment, and they're frustrated when their individual competitive investment takes a hit for the greater good, essentially, right? Because the World Baseball Classic is the ultimate greater good event where building up all of these stars is good for all of the owners. It's just when your guy gets hurt or when your guy isn't the one that's marketed, there's going to be an ego blow. Mm-hmm. But it's only good for Major League Baseball that these guys continue to get built up. In a way, Edwin Diaz's star increased. He's going to come back next year, and it's going to be oh, man, yeah, I remember that guy. He's the one who got hurt during that game. And I know his star increased so much last year, but, a lot of people were watching all of this stuff, and a lot of people cared. I had way more people that don't give a shit about baseball ask me about this Edwin Diaz thing, what do you think about players playing in the World Baseball Classic, than have asked me about a single Marlins game in a decade. It's nuts. And so
what do you think about it? What do you think about it? What do you think about this Edwin Diaz injury?
I think it happens, man. But I do. It's your point of Reese Hoskins got hurt in spring training, right? Those things are always going to happen. And I think that owners, going back to that part of it, there are always going to be some owners who, because of whatever their individual team circumstance is, don't want one rule change or another. Don't want, one change of pace or another. Don't want one World Baseball Classic or another. That's always going to happen with selfish reasons. But on the whole, there's a weird way to argue that baseball's always been a bit progressive thinking in terms of their league, not necessarily in terms of their ideology, but in terms of their league. They created sports streaming before anybody else. BAMTech is a huge part of streaming in general. They've always sort of been ahead of the curve as an organization. And so, of course, their mistakes are in not being ahead of the curve and understanding, oh no, we need to be able to tweak our sport and not really care about the numbers. And unfortunately, baseball was always the sport where numbers mattered more. And so there was an understandable reason why baseball wasn't willing to tweak with their game. But to me, I hope that 5 years from now, we're all on this podcast having this conversation, and it's about hey, they've instituted the magic at bat. And what do you think of it? Because I genuinely hope that now, once they rip the Band-Aid off of hey, we're going to legitimately we're gonna place some sort of, it's like it's almost like, right, the federal government or like states' rights. Like, it seems very silly, but it's like, all right, federal government's decided, like, hey, this is how we're doing it, 20 seconds per pitch. We've all actually got some rules on this rather than you guys all figuring it out yourselves, right? And so, like, there's this emphasis on, like, MLB is stating their control, and I hope that over the next decade they continue to do it to try to find innovative ways to make the game more fun. That, no, don't change the competitive nature of the game, but yeah, are going to mess with the numbers and are going to mess with the amount of at-bats certain guys get and are going to mess with, the tradition, but that's okay. Like, baseball can evolve and should evolve. It's 2023.
Well said.
Thanks.
So next we move out to Jeanette, who's got some sort of non-baseball, more show-related questions to throw you off your game a little bit.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first of all, Jeremy, in honor of your podcast, what is something outside of work that has brought you joy this week?
I love this question. Thanks. Oh God, that's difficult. Not that it's difficult to figure out things that bring me joy, but more it's difficult to think of things that aren't work. I actually, you know what? I'll say it. I made myself dinner tonight, and I'm not much of a cook. And Blue Apron is a thing. It's like a food delivery service. I don't know if they're a sponsor of your lovely podcast here or
No, but they
anybody
can be
else's.
if they would like to.
They should be. Blue Apron, code Lauer. So we had a Blue Apron meal, and I'm not a cook, but I decided, you know what? I'm gonna pour myself a little glass of wine, and I'm gonna try to do this. And so I had a glass of wine, and I cooked myself a lovely pesto pasta.
Wow.
And honestly, it made me feel really good that I was capable of doing that. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm not much of a cook, and these days I'm just so, like, on the run all the time from one thing to another work-wise that I'm eating out a lot. Like, I'm ordering out and getting fried food or whatever it might be. And so to have, oh man, I'm going to pause because Beep got what I realized as soon as I said it. And it's like, what am I supposed to do here? Anywho, ordering food to go from restaurants, that's what I'm doing often. Anywho, I'm going to peter out now.
And you know it.
And you know it.
Can't believe Jazz doesn't do that with his dog. Come on, Jazz, get on him.
That was so funny. That interview was so uncomfortable. I loved it. It was great. It was perfect.
Yeah, so one of my first show related question would be, as Whitty has now left, what is a favorite moment of his that was either on or off the air that you would like to share with us?
Oh man, that's a wonderful question. I'll say, so on the air, I found the moment where Whitty corrected Jess on pregnancy to be the funniest thing I've ever witnessed in my entire life. Because it was just like, in the moment, I was like, my man, what are you doing? And it was just so funny because it was so innocent. Like, it was truly just out of the kindness of his heart of just, like, trying to make sure that all the right things were said. And he was spinning so many plates, and I don't think he even realized. And it was just so wonderful and, like, just such a witty moment. And there's so many great ones. Like, he's spectacular at what he does. But I will say off mic, off show, like, I'm incredibly appreciative of Chris Whittingham just as a human being, because, like, he taught me how to audio edit. Like, Whitty started, you guys remember back when I was with like 5 Reasons Sports Network, I was originally, like, Whitty was an original part of 5 Reasons. And so when the podcast Swings and Mishes was under the 5 Reasons Sports Network, like, I went over to Whitty's apartment. I'd never met him before. And I went over, and he, like, showed me some things about Adobe Audition and like how to work podbean.com and set up our podcast. And like that was 5-6 years ago now. And it's pretty crazy because then, you know, our paths went different directions. We both did different things. We'd see each other different places. And then when I first got hired with Meadowlark, it was now like, all right, Whitty's going to sit me down and teach me how they edit this show. And it's like, it was pretty crazy to think that we went from like this thing that was like a startup podcast network in Miami to like doing that on like one of the biggest shows in America. And it was just really special. And like, he's someone who is very kind and very patient and very like willing to help. And so I'm incredibly appreciative of him just as a person. And it's cool because like he's still going to be around. So it's not like we're not working with him at all. But it's like, you know, as an executive producer, I'm appreciative of the fact that he was like very cool with me also about the fact that like I do have another job. And so it's difficult sometimes with scheduling, and he's a good guy. And so I'm appreciative of him, and it's been a blast working with him. Like I'm sad that it's not going to be on a more daily basis.
Quitty.
Yeah, Quitty. Chris Quittingham. Coward.
My second show related question. So last week Amin brought up in comparison to the Air movie something similar with the show. And when we did LTC last week, I stated that your brother could play Mike Ryan during the Jorts era of Mike Ryan.
And I said
my
you're playing.
God, yeah.
I said Justin Timberlake is playing you, obviously.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
So
I got you, JT.
So I have some other castings. So of course, Danny would play Dan.
Yeah, of course.
Stu, not Clooney, but Daniel Day-Lewis, because I think that would drive him crazy, and
Perfect.
it might end up killing Daniel Day-Lewis if he has to
trying to method act.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
dead shows, lacrosse
That's
mitzvahs.
just a good idea, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Greg Cody,
You can
not
use that.
Tom Cruise, but Gary Oldman, just for the joke of Gary Oldman.
Perfect.
And then I want to work in Meryl Streep in somewhere.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know. I kind of want Meryl Streep to play Christine Lisi. And then no, and then she gets nominated for an Oscar for just the when she would just do the show breaks on ESPN. Like there's a
Perfect.
kazoo in the background and she's giving some factoid and calling Dan fat. And I just basically want a cast that will drive Stu crazy. Have I achieved it?
I think you have. I mean, if you get Meryl Streep and Daniel Day-Lewis in there, I think you have absolutely cooked up the right recipe to make Stu absolutely furious.
Yeah, and today I was trying to work up like Gwyneth Paltrow, how she would have an association. Maybe she's like an amorphous ESPN person, like that was one of the babysitters that would come down.
anchor.
Yeah,
She plays Sedano.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Well, if the aim here is to make Stu like annoyed, like Chris Paul has acting experience through these insurance commercials, right? So
Yep.
could we throw him in there possibly to play somebody?
not
play
in my
Tony.
movie.
Okay.
Chris Paul plays Roy.
Nah, he'll play Tony.
Yeah.
Okay,
Real
then
Hoopers,
Katie
no.
plays Roy.
Hoopers, no. Real Hoopers, no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then my final question, we'll close out with a baseball question, is how excited are you to see Sandy, the reigning NL Cy Young champion, take it to the next level with your Marlins?
I mean, I can't wait. Like he is, he's so fun to watch, and he's so fun to watch compete. That's like the bigger thing. So it's like there's some guys who it's amazing to watch them play because, you know, they've got a sinker or a splitter that's 93 miles an hour, and it's just like crazy to watch them pitch, or they've got a sweet swing. But what it is about Sandy that makes him so unique is that he's still like one of, like, I've got the shirt, the El Caballo Sandy shirt that they gave out for
El
Sandy's
Diablo?
Beach. Yeah, no, I mean, yes. He is a workhorse. Like, he is a bulldog. He is all those things that you refer to in old school pitchers. that they don't really make that much anymore. And he's a competitive maniac. I think I need to, gosh, I probably should get on this because opening day's right around the corner. One of the things that we did at Marlins Media Day was I played rock, paper, scissors with everybody. And so, hold on, I'm going to cough real quick. Sorry about that. So I played rock, paper, scissors with everybody, and Sandy was so competitive over this game of rock, paper, scissors with me that he made us, instead of just doing like for the camera, rock, paper, scissors, shoot, he said, no, we can't do that. Put your hands underneath, like behind your back in the chair. And on the count of 3, we'll both pull something out so that you can't see what I'm doing. And I'm like, my guy, this is not that serious. But he is that competitive to where I was like, oh no, you're totally serious. Like, you do not want to lose this. And he bet me his entire salary. He said, I'll bet you all my money that I win this game of rock, paper, scissors. And then instituted those rules and then beat me.
Yes,
and it was
he did.
amazing. It was amazing. And I mean, he really is just a competitive guy on another level who I'm excited because he's still entering his prime. Like he's not of the age of someone who is not ready to continue to improve. And look, do I think that there's a chance that statistically, last year he was so unbelievable. Could he take a step back statistically? Sure. But do I think he's going to be anything less than like a true ace? Absolutely not. I expect unbelievable things from him this year.
And much like Jazz, he has they want to be that new generation, the new face of the league, the face of the team, represent Miami. And that's something that you always, you want to see in your stars.
For sure. And like Sandy in particular, it's so special because he's not someone who spoke English when he first came into the league. And he's out here doing press conferences all the time, saying things that are like, it's cool the amount of confidence he's carrying himself with in a second language to the media. That's not easy. That's not like, you have to be supremely confident to be able to do so. And he doesn't do it ever in a way that comes across as cocky. He's just confident. And it's special to have a couple of guys like that on each side of the ball who like really do want to be the guy, right? Because like that's half the makeup of a superstar is like, do they actually want it, right? Like we talk about it on, everybody makes a whole thing of it. I believe he does, but everybody makes a whole thing of it in basketball with the Heat with Bam. Like, does Bam want to be the guy? And we go back and forth all the time. I believe he does. Mike Ryan believes he doesn't. Amin believes he doesn't. But on this side of it with the Marlins, like Sandy and Jazz both are people who like, they want to be the guy. They want to be up in the big situations. They want to pitch entire games. They're two guys who want all the smoke. Like it's the reality. And it's cool to have guys like that on your team.
It's going to be so fun in 2 years when the Yankees trade for him.
I hate you. Honestly. Oh.
So we're going to continue with some NL East chat and throw it out to Mayor.
Thank you. Jeremy, thank you for your time. By the way, Stephen Root is going to play Greg Cody. I mean, he's a dead ringer for him, so it's not a big deal. Regarding the rule changes, just another thing I want to hit on that is that you can't change the rules once the season start. I just think you can't change the rules midway. The only rule that really has me angry is the pickoff move to first base. I think
I like it.
You do. Well, I know that they want to get more running in the game, but I mean, if you're really limiting that, I mean, what's going to happen, after you take the maximum amount of throws to first base? I mean, to me, there's a competitive balance there that's just a bit of an issue.
I get the problem, and for those who don't know the intimacies of the rule, it's you can throw over to a base twice in an at bat, and once you've done that the third time, if you throw over to get the runner and he's safe, it's a balk, and the runner takes the next base. If you get him, obviously he's out. For me, what I like about that is it sets up stakes, right? So it's like, I talk about it a lot. I think the most exciting thing in baseball is not a home run. I think it's a stolen base. I think that there's no feeling in a stadium that's cooler than when a guy gets on first and everybody in the stadium knows, oh man, he's probably going to try to take off. And so everybody's on the edge of their seat waiting for what that bang bang play is going to be, right? So not only are you putting base runners in a position where, yes, they're now increasing the likelihood that these guys are willing to steal, but also after 2 throws over, all of a sudden you have another thing where there's stakes. So people are watching attentively going, oh man, if he throws over, this is a base or not? Like, it's essentially, it's like a stolen base. And so realistically, like, I get it, especially with lefties. Like, I think of someone like Andy Pettitte, who was such a master of the balk move and like everything that came with being that level of like crafty lefty and toying with guys at first base. My hope is that a version of that can still exist. And that, yes, we're going to be dealing with an adjustment as people who watch a lot of baseball. We're going to be dealing with an adjustment for a year or two. But hopefully there comes an age where it's like, oh, no, we're just used to it now. Like, yeah, you can't go over more than 3 times. And realistically, like, how often, if someone's going over more than 3 times, how often is that really fun to watch? And how often is that a pitcher that's clearly stalling, waiting for a guy to warm up in the bullpen? You know, like, sometimes you're right. There's going to be moments where, yeah, you know what? A little bit of that gamesmanship that we all love is sort of messed with, right? Like, it's going to happen. Someone pointed out that last at-bat between Trout and Ohtani in the World Baseball Classic, like, every one of those pitches would have been violations of the 20-second rule. So is there a way that the drama and the gamesmanship changes? Maybe. But also, like, if it played out with 20 seconds in between, who knows? It still might have been just as impactful. So I get that there's always going to be examples of things that fall short here. But hopefully the general is, you know, more 70% is good and 30% is bad, right? Like, I'll accept those odds.
Sure. All right. So show-related question, then an NL East related question. You know, so many of the guys, the people in the shipping container have got a bias against David Samson for his time in Miami. Having not been down there, I'm almost exactly the same age as he is. I make no apologies. I'm a fan of David Samson's. Do you have that same tainted background of David? And do you see any possibility that there will be some kind of at least on-air kinship or friendship or positive conversations that'll come of him being on board?
It's a good question. I have a similar experience with David Samson. Yeah, that was a fine. I have a similar experience as everybody else in that I am a Marlins fan. I grew up down here. I am someone who loves baseball with my whole heart. And so to watch him and his father-in-law rip apart a whole bunch of teams and, you know, take advantage of the taxpayers. And I'm not from Miami. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, so it wasn't me technically that he took advantage of. But I don't like it. I don't like shrewd business like that, though. That's also an element of this, just like as a grown adult now. I also just don't like that attitude. I don't like the, like, it's just business, nothing personal thing. David, that being said, I've had nothing but, like, relatively positive interactions with him one-on-one. But that's also because, like, I went to elementary school with his daughter when we were really little. And so, like, I know her, and he might have even said it the other day. So, like, there's, like, a different thing there where we, like, kind of know each other and because of that. But, like, I would say this to him. I've said it, like, I'm not a fan. I'm not, like, I'm not stoked about a lot. Like, pretty much all of his views I disagree with. There's a few things, obviously, that he, and I appreciate, like, politically, oftentimes he weirdly is actually on the right side of a lot of issues and I could appreciate the thought there. But on like sports and business, like, I disagree on almost everything that he thinks about everything. And so it's difficult for me, and the way he goes about talking about it can often rub me the wrong way. But that being said, like I'm understanding of the fact that God, he is a content fountain, and I know that he wants to work hard. I don't know. It's like I don't have like strong enough opinions. I'm not like super opinionated on it, and yeah, I have like the same negative opinion as everybody else because of everything that's happened. But also, like, I don't really know the guy. Like, I don't know.
Being a Braves fan, I guess I can kind of liken it to if John Capalella or Frank Wren were doing a podcast, I guess I would just be tainted from that too. So I understand.
Yeah.
But he did bring you a World Series in that stadium you had a great time in a couple of weeks ago. I don't think you were complaining about the taxpayer funding of that then either.
Hey,
we'll
man,
move on though.
I'll say I always have appreciated that stadium in terms of like having a stadium, but there was no need for the way they did it. You know what I mean? Like I get it on a lot of different levels that's how it works with Major League Baseball. That's how it works with all these different leagues in terms of like, and that's so often the explanation. And that's kind of what I hate is like, well, that's just how it goes. And I think that's bullshit. Like, I think like that's just how it goes mentality on like things that are bad is not okay. Like, and so that's not a representative of like the conversation we're having right now, but that's just more like in that general mindset from the business perspective, especially with like, that's kind of the general justification of like most of David's arguments is like, well, that's just how it is. And it's like, well, okay, but could you go a step beyond? Could you think a little critically about like how that could change and why it could change for the better, you know? And that's not necessarily for him to always do. He's there to provide just the reality of it, right? Like it's up to us to be able to then bring that out of him or bring that to the interview ourselves. At least that's how I view it. So that's something hopefully I'll get to do at some point.
All right, NL East. I think we both agree the Washington Nationals are going to be in the cellar by a long shot. They're really working hard to do that. What are your thoughts on where the Marlins end up? I think obviously most people are going to think, well, they're going to be the fourth place team, but how do you see, there any chance they're going to be able to keep pace with the other big three in there? And how do you see Braves, Phillies, and Mets kind of shaking out, and what role the Marlins play in that? Their pitching staff scares the heck out of me and has for years. As a Braves fan, it reminds me of the early 90s.
Yeah, so it stinks, right? Because like the reality is the Marlins could improve by 15 games this season, which would be a remarkable improvement, get them to like about 500, maybe even over 500, and they could still finish fourth. Like that's how good this division is. And now with the even schedule, there's even a greater chance of, you know, they don't play each other as often. So like the Marlins could have a statistically better record and still not really penetrate to where they need to within the division. Do I think there's a chance that the Marlins could string together an 85-win season that gets them a second wild card? Yeah, I don't think that's impossible. I think that everything would have to go right. Everybody would have to stay healthy. The entire pitching staff would have to stay healthy. All the guys that they're projecting to continue to improve, like Jesus Luzardo and Edward Cabrera on the mound, need to legitimately be the guys that we saw in the second half of the season. Jazz would need to be everything that we expect him to be, at the very least a 25-25 guy, if not a 30-30 type of guy. Avisail Garcia and Jorge Soler would have to be at least 80% of what their average year is, right? If you can get something out of Garcia, like hitting 265 with 18 homers and 60 ribbies, and Soler can hit 30 homers and hit 220, you know, if those guys in the middle of the lineup can just be that, and I know that's nothing crazy, then between Luis Arias and Jazz Chisholm and Gene Segura and Joey Wendell and John Birdie and all these guys who do like these little things around them, there's a chance they could piece together something that's really fun and is a wild card team. There's also a chance that they can't do that those guys are what they were last year, that, God forbid, any of the pitchers end up getting hurt, that Jazz can't stay healthy, right? Or the center field experiment doesn't work the way that they anticipate it working, that playing multiple guys out of position in Gene Segura at third base and Luis Arias at second, who is a second baseman but has played some first base, playing Soler in the outfield, playing Jazz in the outfield, playing Wendell at short. These are all guys who are going to need to step up to have it all go right the way that they hope it will. I tend to be optimistic because I do think that a lot of these guys are really good ball players. I do think that Joey Wendell's supposed to be the everyday shortstop. I think that ends up turning into more of a split between him and John Birdie, because I think John Birdie needs to be in this Marlins lineup for the type of team they've created. And I know that is some niche baseball stuff an hour into this that is like really niche Marlins, but I just love John Birdie. I love watching that guy play. And, there's a chance that they have a really fun year. But when you look at the rest of the NL East, it's hard to predict they'll be better than anyone. I do think there's a chance that the Phillies slip just after Rhys Hoskins got hurt and Harper's missing so much of the year. And I know they picked up Trey Turner, and my goodness, that guy. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's unbelievably fun to watch. I can't wait
My
to watch him
God.
play. Yeah. That's a good limited fake. But to watch him play in Philly is going to be fun. But like, is there a chance that they just sort of got hot at the right time and like they didn't really? They were the sixth seed. Like, could they just kind of not really put it together again like they did for the first 4 months of last year? Yeah, that's totally possible. So could the Marlins finish as like the third best team in the division? Maybe. But it's hard to believe that when you look at the Braves and the Mets that they have any shot at the actual division. Those two teams are so great. Even with what's happened with Edwin Diaz, the Mets are a really, 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 really good team. And the Braves are, I mean, the fact that they've done it again, where they have another one of these teams that you expect to be good for a decade, just shows like what a special organization. Honestly, I'm jealous of it as a Marlins fan. Like, there's the level of consistency is spectacular.
I appreciate your time, and I'm also a big fan of what you brought to the shipping container. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
And so let's just continue and put you on the spot a little bit. What's your prediction for the World Series? Or even the championship series and then the World Series?
No, I love this. I like this question because I knew you were going to ask it, and I just want to tell you what I want. I'm not telling you it's like not what I think. I want the Seattle Mariners to play the San Diego Padres. In the World Series.
San Diego, come on.
Oh my God, I would love every second of it. What San
Really
Diego's
disgusting.
doing is awesome.
No.
It's awesome. What they've done is amazing. I
Gross.
understand the Dodgers fans don't like it. I understand this is not my audience, but what they've done investing as a small market team, as a team that's supposed to handle things the way that like the Marlins and the Orioles and all these other teams do. I understand. Hey, you put your quotations around small market. I feel the same way. I don't think that Miami is a small market. And yet
Market.
here we are with San Diego and Miami acting like small market teams. One way or another, it's how they normally operate. And the fact that they're not, the fact that they're, according to David Sampson, hemorrhaging money to do this is awesome. I think that's awesome. I think what they're doing is amazing. And with Seattle, Julio Rodriguez, I hope, has an MVP level season. And I just absolutely love their pitching rotation. Like Logan Gilbert and George Kirby and Luis Castillo. Like all three of those dudes are so fun to watch pitch. And like we don't get to do it because they're in Seattle. So nobody, like, it's not paid attention.
The unknown time zone.
Yeah. So what actually happened is that last year I just watched a bunch of West Coast Apple TV games on Friday nights because Katie Nolan was on the games, and they did a few Seattle games, and I was just like, all right, yeah, like this is Yeti's team. I know he's a huge fan of the Mariners, and I was just like, yeah, man, these guys rock. Like, they're fun, and I hope it's fun when you see teams that are trying really hard to do something. Like, they invested in this offseason. The Padres invested in this offseason. They're trying to take advantage of windows that they have, and I hope that they both succeed. So it's a ratings nightmare. But I'm hoping it's Seattle and San Diego.
Yeah,
And who wins in your hypothetical World Series? Seattle?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, why not? I don't think I'm going to be right. Like, I'm throwing this out there knowing very well that if you bring this back, I'm probably not going to be right. but I hope I am, because if both of these teams maximize what they can be, they'll both be like generationally fun teams to watch. Like that's what it is.
Back if you're right.
Yeah, if I'm right, then clip it back. If
Yeah.
I'm not, then I have
Look.
to precursor
I'll get rid
here.
of it. I got
Yeah,
you.
just get rid of
I
it.
think,
Delete the
Seattle's
entire
got a
episode.
chance. I just think, San Diego's be more fun if they explode than if they actually succeed, I think.
Nah, see, like how could we root for that? Like why would you root for look how good they could be? I
mean,
get it. I get it.
Rogue Barbers, Ringworm. Nobody knows when that's gonna hit.
No, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The Fernando Tatis Jr. stuff is
Riding on an unauthorized vehicle when you're
He's
a
a character.
multi-million-dollar baseball player. Who would ever do such
Not-
things? Why?
not the best idea.
Time
Not
to
the
get
best
reckless.
idea.
And it's also
Yeah.
it's not like you're a nepo baby and you like don't know anything about major leagues and contracts and money, like totally just like no clue whatsoever as far
they
as
also-
contracts and taking care of yourself. Totally. Give him the benefit of the doubt every single time.
But they have Juan Soto. He's so fun. They're
Yes.
they're gonna be so.
That's
fun.
Tony's guy. That's his
Yeah,
guy.
Tony's guy.
The Blue Jays are more fun.
The Blue Jays are fun, and
Talk about the other forbidden time zone.
I hope, and I'm not. I don't think I'm like. I love the Blue Jays, and I would think it would be awesome if they. I like Alek Manoah so much. Like I love watching that guy pitch. Like I would love if the Blue Jays had a great year. There's a bunch of teams like that, right? Where there's a bunch of teams with fun young players that you just hope achieve something. Like again, that's why, like, man, it'd be awesome if the Marlins were good enough to at least hang around the wild card, because then people would be paying attention to Jazz and Sandy and what they're doing.
Yeah, when
Jandy.
Alec was mic'd up during the All-Star game, that really showed the kind of character he is. I wish more games had more players mic'd up the entire time, because I think that right there would bring in a new subset of fans.
I 1000% agree with you. I've been saying, like, as much as any, I feel like I have old tweets about it probably, that, like, absolutely players should be mic'd up, like,
I'm
all
on
the
it.
time. Like, and
Especially
they
in
should
Boston.
they should be speaking to the broadcasters all freaking game long. And I understand, like, maybe it can be the type of thing where it's a cutoff after 5 innings, where now the mic'd up goes to like a bullpen guy or something like that, or a starting pitcher who just pitched a couple days ago, so clearly isn't going to come into the game. Because I get it. Down the stretch of the game, guys want to focus, and it shouldn't be taken differently in the first inning than in the 8th inning or whatever, but it is. And so I can understand if they want to do some things to limit it, but to me, having players mic'd up all game long in a game like this, where there is some time to kind of mess around, like, it 1000% increases star power, increases everything. Like, I love it. I agree with you completely.
All they
And
have
totally-
to do is put in an alternate feed, right? So you have the home feed, you have the away feed, you have the radio, you have the other radio.
Yep.
All you need is the player feed, and that's it. MLB.TV will solve that problem right there.
As long as they could, because I think it should just be like not even with a broadcaster then. Like, you should just have dudes mic'd up. So, like, to me, I think the best way, if we really want to go down this rabbit hole, the coolest way that you could do this would be to mic up every single player on the entire team, and just have like a truck that's deciding whose audio is up at what time, and they have it on a 30-second delay, so that way they're not doing it live, right? You're watching this as something that, yeah, you understand that there's a delay, but you're getting really unique access.
Exactly.
And look, there's like a mutual agreement between the production side and the team. Like, look, we're not going to make you look bad, but we're giving you now, like, this is what a player who's just standing at shortstop all inning is saying to himself, to his teammate, whatever it might be. And if you put it on enough of a delay, theoretically, it can't at all impact what, the other team sees in terms of, like, cheating and stuff like that. So I'm into this. Let's explore all of it.
I agree totally. So now we're gonna go a little irreverent here and throw it out to Drake. He's got a top 5 he wants to talk to you about.
Hey, Jeremy, what's going on, man?
What's up?
So kind of on the topic of baseball, kind of trying to add to add to our 90s baseball fandom and getting fans back into the game. The cool thing that I've seen lately, so the two big announcements with the Marlins and the Rays bringing back the throwback jerseys. So I have a little top 5 list of my throwback jerseys.
Oh, I'm excited. This is good.
So I have you gotta start out with the OLI, of course, but I have an OOLI because these two aren't, which to my knowledge, I don't think they've used them. They could have, but I'm not sure. So first OOLI is Montreal Expos. The Nationals certainly don't lean into that enough, and they should. And then also shout out to Jeanette, the LA Angels. They should lean into the Angels of the outfield, that era, because those unis were sweet.
The like California Angels era.
Yeah, the vest,
man,
the gray vest with the navy sleeves.
Uh-huh.
That could definitely bring back some nostalgia. And then so true OLI, the Diamondbacks, the purple teal, the Luis Gonzalez, Randy Johnson era. Number 5, we have the Marlins teal and black that they're bringing back finally. Hopefully, what are your thoughts? You think they should switch back to those primarily?
I mean, like, everybody loves those. I love those. I think it's really cool that they're doing every Friday night. I'll take that for now, and I'll see how that feels, because, like, I know they're also going to work in the Sugar Kings uniforms on home Saturdays for the most part. And so, like, the idea that they essentially are going to have, like, Marlins jerseys, Sugar King jerseys, and the throwbacks, I kind of like that there's a whole bunch of different things. So I might like that there's a rotation enough to where I don't want the full throwbacks coming back. But, yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed with them. I love them. Yeah,
for sure. The number 4 is the Rays, the navy purple, lime green, going back to the Devil Rays. Those things they're sweet, man. The Ichiro days when he was early on with them. 3, Mayor Matt's gonna be mad at me for only having him at 3 because we're both Braves guys, but the Hank Aaron era, the Braves, the royal blue mane with the red side, those are classic for sure.
I gotta say, by the way, that I think that I'm really disappointed in the new what is it, the City Connect, the Braves City Connect, because I think that, like, they're just way too similar to those Braves throwbacks. That, like, I get what they were trying to do, and that they're, like, the whole premise of it is that they're paying tribute to Hank Aaron, which I think is super cool. Like, I think the reasoning behind it is awesome, but the design kind of fell short to me because it just felt like an alternate version of an already alternate jersey that you already had. So for the Braves, who could do so many cool things, I was just like, man, I wish it was just a little bit cooler. But those throwbacks you're mentioning are, like, they're the best.
It also should have been a C on there because they play in Cobb County, not Atlanta. But go ahead.
Yeah. And then number 2 is a joint combination. So I put in just all the sky blues. So the Royals, the Twins, the Phillies, all the Bo Jackson, all the top and bottom light blue. Those are all prime.
Terrific.
Salute Lou.
So, and then number 1, it's more of the logo compared to the jerseys, but the Milwaukee Brewers, the old school MB logo with the glove, like, to me, that's the all-time baseball logo that cannot be topped.
1000%. That's the best logo. Like, it's one of the coolest designs, like, ever. And I've always been a huge fan of it. The jerseys are, like, fine, but I think you're totally right that logo allows it to take the cake. And all those baby blue ones are some of my favorites. I really like, there's an alternate Giants jersey that's like an off-white
Yeah.
that it's like sort of intended to be a throwback, but it's not even really a throwback. And I don't know if it is or not. And then the only other one I would have included if I were you was the and they still wear them now also is the Kelly Green Oakland A's like throwbacks to the 70s. Those are like that's like a top tier one of my favorites.
Yeah, the A's yellow ones are sweet too.
Oh yeah,
The
exactly.
Ricky
yeah.
Henderson days. The A's got some.
The A's have some fun
nasty
ones.
They got some combos for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then kind of to recap all that, so a lot of people like on Twitter and stuff, the old heads they're complaining about like MLB doing all this and like comparing it to the NBA to where they're like, oh, you should have a home and away jersey. So like, have you seen or heard anything like on how you think that'll transition? Does that have any kind of aspect, or you think the league's kind of figuring out like, hey, we need to move forward from that idea?
I think they are trying to just make as many options as possible. Do I think that's also a bit of a money grab? Sure. Having 5 jerseys, like, yeah, of course, because now you're giving people more options to buy jerseys. On the same token, it's more options of cool designs for the most part. Like, that's better than just having 2 crappy jerseys and saying, all right, here, go for it. I think it's awesome. Like, I look at the Marlins in particular. Their Sugar Kings jersey and their throwback Marlins jersey are going to be their 2 most successful selling jerseys, right? Like, people love this stuff. And so if fans are getting more of an opportunity to get the stuff that they like on the field, I don't see why they'd ever do anything not to keep that consistent. It's also like, because it's different so like the NBA, for example, like you have to change your floor if your jersey no longer matches. Right. So like the Lakers have an alternate floor when they have their like light blue jerseys. The Heat have an alternate floor for their mashup jersey. Like it's a whole thing. With baseball, you can wear any color. It doesn't make a difference. A baseball field, it's green and it's brown, and that's it.
Sure.
It's like nothing's changing. And so as a result, I think wearing a whole bunch of different things, it doesn't make a difference as long as they're cool designs and they're not doing it a cheap way, which it doesn't seem like they are. Like sometimes the designs aren't perfect, but these City Connect jerseys have been great. The throwbacks are great. Like you said, the Rays and the Marlins now get throwbacks that their fans are going to love. I don't see anything wrong with it, personally.
I've got a problem with your list, Drake. The Astros Sunburst. How did that not even make your OOOLI?
You're right. That's a good one. That's a good
I
one.
see it in the chat, and that's rightfully
fraud.
That's rightful shit that's thrown my way. That should have been included for sure. But those jerseys are sweet for sure. So I'm getting the rust off. Give me a break.
Welcome back, big guy.
Thank you, man. Back to you, Ant.
Yeah, well, this has been fun, Jeremy. We've got a couple of folks that want to just jump on and say a few things. Go ahead, Pam.
Hi, Jeremy. I just
hopped
on to say hello. I stayed up way past my bedtime just to have the opportunity to say hello to you. So
it's so wonderful to see you, and I'm so glad that you did stick around. That was very nice of you, and thanks for staying up. This is so nice.
To get to hear you talk baseball, to get to talk baseball again, it's been fun. So I was thought I could have fun.
I will say it always makes my day and makes my week and month and everything to be here and like hang out with you guys because this is I've been doing this for a long time with you guys. Like it's pretty cool. We've been doing these podcasts for like what 3 years? Like
3 years.
It's been a long time. It's pretty crazy. So I don't know. It's always fun for me to see all of your faces.
Bro, if this made your month, you gotta step your month up.
I mean, it's been a good month. I'm not gonna front. It's been good. Things have
It's
been
been a
happening.
March.
It's been a March. It's been a March.
Little promotion at the show too. A little upgrade from the table to the actual desk. So
not, we'll see how often that's the case. It's just because people aren't there. I get to sub in. Nah, it has been really fun. Like the last couple of weeks have been cool. Because I feel like I have had like an opportunity to talk a little bit more. Which has been
real part of the show now, man. Like
thanks. Yeah, it's
awesome.
nuts. That's
Real
wild,
Fruito,
right? So weird. I'm having a lot of fun, and working with everybody is a blast. I mean, yeah, it's like it's the best group to work with. So it's been really fun for me, and like you guys know, I'm a gigantic fan of the show. So to be able to like contribute and like, man, there's like I realized already that like my favorite thing is I think one of like my favorite thing that I get to do is sometimes sitting in that like weird little desk area that I have, feeding Billy a joke to feed to Stu or Greg. It's like, oh man. And then when that telephone actually works and it gets said and it's like a good punctuation, it's the best feeling. It's so good.
Tiger Woods fist pump in the corner back there, huh?
Oh yeah, you'll see it. You see it happen. You see it happen. I did it today. I think today I fist pumped on something because I gave something to Billy to give to Stu. Or like I said it to Billy and he like looked at me like, oh man, that one's bad. You say it. And I was like, I don't want to say it. And he's like, all right, I'll give it to Stu. Like
you covering your face.
Yeah. So when you guys watch the YouTube, if you see like you'll see that interaction happen. It's something like that.
I loved watching you watch Chris Cody just absolutely kill it today on the board.
Dude, it was spectacular. Oh, it was awesome. Well, it was fun also because then like obviously once there's a couple mistakes, then it's all right, we're sinking into it. So it was like every opportunity I got, I'm yelling at him, "Hey, get off my plane again."
My God.
It's perfect. It's yeah. It's today was fun. Like Chris did a great job.
Good times. Jeremy, as always, we appreciate you very much. On 3, can I get a thank you, JerBear, from everybody in the chat? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, JerBear. Thank you, JerBear. Thank you, JerBear. Thank you, JerBear.
The off chants are just the best. Like none of you being on sync with each other is a staple of this, and I love it.
Absolutely. Well, again, Jeremy, thank you. Everybody, you can go out and follow Jeremy on Twitter, on Instagram, all the usual places. The Bally Sports Miami for a little bit longer. I'd like to, again, this is Ant in Brooklyn. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Matt, out in Cartersville, Beep, out in Albuquerque, Pow, Jeanette, and Jeff in the LA area, Schweitz up in Canada, Pam down in Virginia, and Drake in South Carolina. Thank you and have a good night.
And Jeremy in the place that shall not be named.
Oh yeah, that too. In the corner at the Le Batard studio.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Tiger Woods.